Ozempic is being promoted as the weight loss drug sweeping through Hollywood. What began as a diabetes treatment has turned into the industry's most talked about shortcut. While it has created dramatic transformations, not all of them are success stories. This video counts down 10 shocking celebrity cases where weight loss went too far, leading to medical emergencies, unrecognizable facial changes, and consequences the media rarely talks about. Jon Gosselin. Jon Gosselin never set out to become a cautionary tale, but pressure has a way of cornering people quietly. Surrounded by friends who worked out constantly and looked effortlessly fit, he began to feel out of place. Then came the photos. One glance was enough to convince him that something had to change, and it had to change fast. That urgency led him to Ozempic, and at first it delivered exactly what it promised. In just 2 months, Jon lost 32 pounds. The numbers dropped quickly and the initial excitement felt undeniable. It looked like the shortcut everyone talked about had actually worked. But the weight didn't disappear evenly. It stripped his face first. The fullness that once made him look healthy vanished, replaced by sharp angles and a gaunt, exhausted appearance. His cheeks hollowed out, his neck thinned, and his skin looked stretched and tired. The transformation was so obvious that people began commenting immediately, often questioning whether something was wrong with his health. Then the illusion collapsed. Ozempic isn't a temporary solution, it requires long-term access, and that's where everything unraveled. The drug is expensive and insurance doesn't reliably cover it for weight loss. When Jon could no longer get the medication, the process stopped abruptly. What followed was brutal. Every pound he had lost came back. All 32 pounds returned quickly and forcefully, but his face didn't recover the way his body did. The rapid weight loss had already stripped away facial volume and stretched the skin. When the weight rushed back, the skin couldn't adapt. The damage was permanent, leaving his face visibly altered. Jon later spoke openly about the experience on the Tamron Hall show, sitting beside his daughter Hannah. He didn't celebrate the transformation, he regretted it. The rapid loss and regain left his metabolism confused, his skin less elastic, and his confidence shaken. Instead of feeling healthier, he felt worse than when he started. His story exposes the part of rapid weight loss no one advertises. When the weight comes off too fast, especially through medication, the body pays a price. And when it comes back just as fast, the consequences don't cancel out, they compound. Jon Gosselin's experience stands as a stark reminder that shortcuts in weight loss often leave scars long after the scale resets. Heather Gay. Heather Gay's Ozempic story isn't about extreme numbers. That's what makes it unsettling. She didn't lose an unbelievable amount of weight. There was no dramatic headline-grabbing drop. Heather lost somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds, an amount that on paper sounds reasonable, manageable, even healthy. But the changes told a different story. The weight came off quickly and her face paid the price. The softness that once defined her features faded. Her jawline sharpened. Her cheeks hollowed slightly, creating that now familiar angular look associated with rapid medication-driven weight loss. It wasn't drastic at first, just enough to make people pause and look twice. Enough to make her look older, tired, less like herself. What sets Heather apart is what came next. Instead of celebrating the transformation, she did something rare in Hollywood. She admitted it didn't feel good. In interview after interview, Heather confessed that losing the weight didn't make her more confident. It made her feel weaker, smaller. She openly said that the version of herself before Ozempic was braver and stronger. That confession cuts deep, especially considering who Heather was before. She had built part of her public identity around body acceptance and self-confidence. And yet, the pressure still got to her. Hollywood found a way in. Heather later admitted she felt like she had sold out not just her body, but her beliefs. In her words, body positivity started to feel like a lie once she saw how differently she was treated after losing weight. The most disturbing part wasn't the physical change, it was the psychological one. Heather said her personality shifted. She felt less authentic, less grounded, as if something essential had been stripped away along with the pounds. The weight loss didn't give her freedom, it took something from her. Heather Gay's story exposes a quieter danger of Ozempic. Not the dramatic before and after photos. Not the shock value, but the way even a moderate weight loss can leave someone feeling disconnected from themselves. Sometimes what disappears isn't just weight, it's identity. If you had to lose weight, would you choose Ozempic injections? Comment yes or no below. Emily Simpson. Emily Simpson's transformation didn't happen quietly. It exploded across social media, turning her into one of the most debated faces of the Ozempic era. Her weight loss wasn't the result of a single method. Emily combined Ozempic with liposuction, a decision that accelerated the changes to her body and especially to her face. The results were immediate and dramatic. The softness that once defined her features vanished. Her cheeks lost volume, her jawline became sharply pronounced, and her face took on a drawn, almost hollow look. Instead of appearing refreshed, she looked older, more exhausted, almost unrecognizable. This is what doctors warn about when they talk about Ozempic face. Facial fat is often the first to disappear and the hardest to restore naturally. By attacking fat loss from multiple directions at the same time, Emily's face absorbed the impact. The body can sometimes recover from aggressive weight loss, the face often cannot. The public reaction was brutal. Social media turned toxic fast. Comments accused her of lying, of hiding the truth, of pretending the transformation was natural. Others simply said they didn't recognize her anymore. The scrutiny wasn't just about weight, it was about honesty, appearance, and the unrealistic standards placed on women in the public eye. Eventually, Emily addressed the backlash. She admitted that the criticism affected her deeply, to the point where she stopped looking at the scale altogether. What was meant to be a personal health decision had become a public trial, with every angle of her face analyzed and judged. Emily Simpson's story reveals how quickly control can slip away when cosmetic procedures and weight loss drugs collide. When the pursuit of change becomes too aggressive, the face often tells the story first, long before the scale does. June Shannon. Mama. June Shannon's transformation story is not a straight line. It's a cycle, dramatic, exhausting, and deeply unsettling to watch. She had already been through one of the most extreme weight loss journeys imaginable. After undergoing gastric sleeve surgery, Mama June lost over 300 pounds. The change was staggering. For a moment, it looked like everything had finally fallen into place. She looked healthier, more confident, and in control of her life. Then reality hit. Her daughter's cancer diagnosis shattered that stability. The stress was overwhelming and the weight came back fast. June regained between 120 and 130 pounds, and instead of turning to therapy or long-term nutritional support to address the emotional trauma behind the weight gain, she reached for a faster solution. That solution was semaglutide injections. Using Ozempic after massive weight loss surgery created a violent yo-yo effect on her body, especially her face. Her skin had already been stretched to its limits from the first transformation. When the medication kicked in, the weight dropped again, but this time her face couldn't keep up. One moment it looked full and swollen from regain, the next it appeared hollow, sagging, and deflated as the weight fell off rapidly. The visual impact was disturbing. The loose skin left behind from surgery combined with sudden facial volume loss created an aged, exhausted appearance. Her face seemed to collapse inward, giving the impression of someone far older and far more unwell than before. Unlike many celebrities, Mama June documented much of this process publicly. Fans didn't have to imagine the changes, they watched them happen in real time, week by week. The reaction was different this time. Instead of praise, concern flooded the comments. People weren't congratulating her anymore. They were worried. Many said she looked unrecognizable. Others questioned whether what they were seeing was healthy at all. Mama June's story exposes a harsh truth about rapid weight loss. When the body has already endured one extreme transformation, pushing it through another can leave lasting damage. Weight can be lost again, but skin structure and stability don't always recover. And sometimes the cost of chasing a quick fix is written clearly across the face. Golnesa Garachadaghi. Golnesa Garachadaghi, better known as Gigi, became one of the most controversial figures in Hollywood's Ozempic wave, not because she denied using it, but because of how fiercely she defended the results. Gigi openly admitted to taking Ozempic, yet pushed back hard whenever people questioned the consequences. In a short period of time, she dropped from 138 pounds to 110 pounds. On its own, that number doesn't sound extreme, but in reality, it meant losing nearly 20% of her total body weight rapidly. That kind of loss shocks the body, and it rarely comes without visible consequences. Those consequences showed up first in her face. The softness that once balanced her features disappeared. Her face became sharper and more angular with pronounced cheekbones and a tighter jawline. When placed side by side with photos from just a few years earlier, the difference was unsettling. She didn't just look thinner, she looked structurally different. Gigi claimed she avoided the worst effects of Ozempic face by using fillers and Botox regularly, but that admission raised a deeper concern. It suggested that cosmetic procedures were needed to counteract the side effects of the medication. This wasn't a natural transformation, it required maintenance and correction to keep it from going too far. Even with those interventions, the change was undeniable. The youthful roundness in her face was gone, replaced by harder, sharper lines. At 110 pounds, she reached the very low end of what would be considered healthy for most women of her height, a sign that her body may have been pushed beyond its natural set point. Gigi has never hidden her Ozempic use, but she has been dismissive of public concern. And that dismissal is part of what makes her story unsettling. The transformation wasn't gradual, it wasn't subtle. It was fast, aggressive, and medically assisted, a clear reminder that when weight loss becomes a race, the body adapts, but not always in ways that can be undone. Barbie Ferrer. For years, Barbie was seen as a symbol of body positivity. As Kat Hernandez on Euphoria, she represented confidence, softness, and resistance to Hollywood's rigid beauty standards. That identity was part of her brand. Then almost overnight, it disappeared. The transformation was shocking. New photos surfaced and fans barely recognized her. Her weight loss was so extreme that social media erupted with speculation about Ozempic use. Comment sections flooded with disbelief, shock, and crude jokes. Her images went viral across platforms, not because she looked better, but because she looked like a completely different person. The most dramatic changes were in her face. The fullness that once defined her features vanished. Her cheeks hollowed out. Her jawline became sharply pronounced. The soft, rounded structure that made her instantly recognizable was replaced by hard, angular lines. Side-by-side comparisons left people questioning whether they were even looking at the same woman. What made the shift even more jarring was the timing. According to sources close to Barbie, the weight loss came after her departure from Euphoria and was tied to a desire to rebrand herself. This wasn't just about health, it was about career survival. The message was clear: this is who I am now, a deliberate break from the body-positive role that had defined her. Barbie has never publicly confirmed using Ozempic, but the speed and severity of the change matched a pattern seen repeatedly in other celebrity transformations tied to these medications. Natural weight loss doesn't usually happen this fast, and it doesn't completely restructure a face in such a short window of time. Her story exposes an uncomfortable truth. In Hollywood, even the faces of body positivity aren't safe from pressure. Sometimes the industry doesn't just ask you to change it, asks you to disappear and come back as someone else entirely. Tori Spelling. Tori Spelling has lived her life in the public eye for decades, which makes her transformation impossible to ignore. There is a clear visual record of who she was and how dramatically she changed. At 51 years old, Tori first tried Ozempic. When it didn't work for her, she moved on to Mounjaro, a stronger medication from the same drug family. That detail alone raised concern. When someone needs increasingly powerful drugs to lose weight, it often means their body is fighting against its natural biology. The results were immediate and unsettling. Tori's naturally round, youthful face became sharply angular and visibly gaunt. Her cheekbones jutted out. The volume around her eyes and temples collapsed, creating a hollow, almost sunken look that made her appear far older than her actual age. This wasn't subtle weight loss, it was facial depletion. What made her case especially disturbing was something she admitted herself. Tori revealed that her own children didn't recognize her when watching old episodes of Beverly Hills 90210. For a transformation to be so extreme that your children struggle to identify you in your most iconic role speaks to a fundamental change in appearance, not just weight. When Tori appeared on Dancing with the Stars, the impact was undeniable. Viewers who hadn't seen her in years were shocked. Certain camera angles made her facial structure look almost skeletal. The rapid loss of facial volume amplified the natural aging process that already comes in your 50s, accelerating it rather than softening it. Tori Spelling's story highlights a harsh reality of medication-driven weight loss later in life. When fat disappears too quickly, especially from the face, it doesn't just make you thinner, it can strip away the very features that make you recognizable. And once that volume is gone, it rarely comes back the way it was. Christina Aguilera. In recent appearances, the 44-year-old Grammy-winning singer looked dramatically different, thinner than ever, almost fragile. Christina has never publicly confirmed using Ozempic, but the timing, speed, and severity of her weight loss immediately raised red flags. Across social media, concern replaced admiration. This didn't look like a gradual lifestyle change. It looked sudden, aggressive, unnatural. The most troubling changes were written all over her face. Her once full, youthful features appeared hollowed out. Her eyes looked sunken. Her cheekbones jutted sharply forward, giving her face a skeletal quality that fans described as shocking and unsettling. The loss of volume around her temples and under her eyes created the unmistakable look associated with extreme medication-driven weight loss. What made the situation even more disturbing was how fast it happened. Side-by-side comparisons from just 2 years ago showed a woman who looked healthy and vibrant, and then suddenly someone far thinner, far more drawn, and visibly aged. This kind of facial transformation doesn't occur naturally in such a short period of time. It usually points to drastic intervention. Fans weren't criticizing, they were worried. Comment sections filled with messages asking if she was okay, if she was eating enough, if something was wrong. When an audience that has followed someone for decades reacts with fear instead of praise, it signals something deeper than aesthetic change. Christina Aguilera's story reflects the most unsettling side of Hollywood's weight loss obsession. Reinvention has always been part of her identity, but this time the cost appears to be written into her face. When weight loss moves faster than the body can safely adapt, what's left behind isn't just a new image, but a trail of unanswered questions. Besides the 8 celebrities mentioned above, do you know any other famous people who have used Ozempic? Give me the most striking name. Robbie Williams. At 50 years old, the former Take That member admitted to using a medication similar to Ozempic to lose weight. What followed wasn't a subtle change. It was a dramatic and deeply unsettling shift in his appearance, one that medical experts would later point to as a textbook example of Ozempic face in men. The weight loss carved into his face with unusual severity. His features appeared stretched and elongated, giving him a noticeably longer face. The hollowing under his eyes and along his cheeks was pronounced, draining away the fullness that once softened his expression. In recent photos, he looked gaunt, almost unrecognizable compared to his earlier public appearances. Doctors took notice. One medical expert described his transformation bluntly, saying he looked like a completely different person and that the lengthening of his face was a clear sign of extreme rapid weight loss. When professionals begin citing a celebrity's appearance as a warning example, it signals more than cosmetic change, it signals concern. What makes Robbie's case particularly alarming is that men typically have more facial fat and muscle mass than women, which usually protects them from this kind of hollowed appearance. Even with that natural advantage, his face still collapsed under the speed of the weight loss. That suggests the intervention was aggressive and the pace far beyond what the body could safely manage. Robbie Williams' transformation underscores an uncomfortable truth: if these medications can hollow out even male faces built to resist it, no one is immune. When weight loss happens too fast, the mirror doesn't just reflect change, it exposes damage. Lahi Moss. At just 26 years old, Lahi was already thin and healthy, but the pressure to be smaller still pushed her toward Ozempic. Instead of getting it through proper medical channels, she obtained the drug unofficially. That decision would prove catastrophic. Lahi was taking a dosage intended for people weighing over 220 pounds, while she herself weighed only around 110 pounds. Her body was never meant to handle that level of medication. The results were immediate and terrifying. In just 2 weeks, Lottie's weight dropped from 132 pounds to 116 pounds. That rate of loss is medically dangerous, and the physical changes reflected it. Her face hollowed out rapidly, her cheekbones protruded sharply, her eyes sank deep into her face. She didn't look thin, she looked sick, skeletal, aged far beyond her years. Then her body gave out. Lottie was rushed to the hospital after suffering seizures later linked to severe dehydration, a known side effect of Ozempic that becomes lethal when combined with extreme rapid weight loss. This wasn't about aesthetics anymore. This was a full-blown health crisis. Unlike many celebrities, Lottie didn't try to spin the story. She spoke openly about it on her Dream On podcast, calling it the worst decision I've ever made. She described the experience as terrifying and urged others not to repeat her mistake. Her warning wasn't vague, it was explicit, urgent, and personal. What makes Lahi Moss's story the most disturbing is how little protection youth provided. She was young, she was thin, she should have been resilient, and yet her body still collapsed under the misuse of the drug. Her case exposes the darkest truth behind the Ozempic trend. When these medications are abused, they don't just change faces, they endanger lives. Katy Perry. Hollywood was used to seeing Katy Perry as a burst of color and confidence. A full face, boundless energy, and a presence that dominated every red carpet she stepped onto. But her recent appearances have triggered a very different reaction. Not admiration, not curiosity. Alarm, sunken cheeks, a hollowed face, a body that looks fragile under lights once designed to make her shine. Fans didn't recognize the transformation at first. Then they couldn't stop noticing it. The contrast with her former self is so stark that even seasoned industry insiders admit it's unsettling. Behind the scenes, photographers have begun whispering about what they call the Perry problem. Capturing flattering images has suddenly become difficult. Makeup artists reportedly need extra time, extra contouring, extra products just to recreate the fullness that once came naturally to her face. Cameras aren't being cruel, they're being honest. And what they're revealing isn't fashion evolution, it's physical depletion. But the most disturbing details don't come from photos, they come from people who have seen her off camera. Venue staff and private event insiders describe dramatic mood swings, visible exhaustion, and an alarming lack of stamina. Schedules have allegedly been adjusted to allow for extended breaks. One source claims that after longer appearances, Perry required physical assistance just to walk, something unthinkable for the performer once known for relentless stage energy. What makes the situation even more controversial is the silence. Katy Perry has not addressed the speculation. No confirmation, no denial, no explanation. In Hollywood, that silence carries weight. Because when a public figure says nothing, the body often says everything. Her current appearance fits what industry professionals quietly call pharmaceutical face rapid weight loss, followed by premature aging, loss of facial volume, and a drained, unhealthy look that cosmetic fixes can only partially disguise. It's a look increasingly associated with aggressive medical intervention rather than lifestyle change. Sharon Osborne. Sharon Osborne didn't just hint at what happened to her. She said it out loud, and what she revealed was far darker than most Hollywood confessions ever dare to go. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. Weight fell off so fast that even longtime fans felt uneasy. Her frame shrank to the point where thin was no longer the word. What appeared instead was something skeletal, fragile, and deeply unwell. Sharon admitted she lost control. Not gradually, not carefully, completely. She described a body that simply stopped responding to normal hunger signals. Eating became impossible. Nausea became constant. Energy disappeared. Work became a struggle. Daily life became something to endure rather than live. What was supposed to be a shortcut turned into a trap. The most chilling part came after she stopped. Sharon revealed that quitting the medication didn't bring relief. Her appetite didn't come back. Her weight didn't stabilize. Her body didn't reset. Instead, she was left trying to regain something that had been chemically shut down normal function. Doctors had to intervene. Recovery wasn't quick, and it wasn't guaranteed. Then came the psychological truth few celebrities ever admit. She confessed that the rapid weight loss became addictive. Even as her health deteriorated, watching the scale drop created a dangerous sense of control and validation. The drug didn't just suppress appetite, it rewired behavior. What began as a choice slowly turned into something she could no longer manage on her own. Unlike others who hide behind vague wellness talk, Sharon exposed the unglamorous reality, the sickness, the fear, the loss of autonomy. She made it clear that this wasn't discipline or willpower. It was a chemical override, one that didn't come with an off switch. Her warning landed hard because Sharon Osborne isn't naive, young, or uninformed. She's experienced, powerful, media savvy, and even she lost control. Jessica Simpson. Jessica Simpson insists nothing unusual is happening. Hard work, discipline, determination. That's the story she continues to sell. But the images tell a far more unsettling version, one that fitness professionals, industry insiders, and longtime fans say simply doesn't add up. The change was fast. Too fast. In a matter of months, Simpson's body transformed in ways experts describe as medically implausible through natural methods alone. The weight loss wasn't gradual, it wasn't balanced, it appeared sudden, aggressive, and physically draining. The kind of transformation that doesn't come from cleaner eating or longer workouts, but from something far more extreme. What makes this situation particularly disturbing is Jessica Simpson's history. For years, she built trust by being honest about her struggles with weight, pregnancy, and body image. Millions of women saw themselves in her vulnerability. She was relatable. She was real. That authenticity became part of her brand and part of why people believed her. That's why the current narrative feels like a betrayal. Behind the scenes, former staff members describe a version of Simpson that sharply contradicts her public image. Obsessive weighing, severe food restriction, emotional volatility, schedule adjustments made not for creative reasons but to manage exhaustion and mood swings. The woman once known for openness reportedly became consumed by control. Fans began noticing the cracks first, gaps in her social media posting, sudden jumps in appearance between photos, timeline inconsistencies that lined up perfectly with periods of dramatic physical change. Her transformation photos show markers that medical professionals associate with pharmaceutical intervention, not lifestyle shifts. Yet the denials continue, and that's where the real damage happens. By insisting her results are purely natural, Simpson promotes an expectation that many women will never achieve no matter how disciplined they are. For followers struggling with postpartum bodies, hormonal changes, or metabolic realities, the message is quietly brutal. If she can do it, why can't you? The truth is, they can't. Because the story isn't honest. Jessica Simpson's transformation isn't just about weight loss. It's about the collapse of trust between celebrity and audience. About selling discipline while hiding desperation. About presenting control while privately unraveling under impossible standards. The story isn't over yet. If you want to know which celebrities have been using Ozempic in silence, comment 1 so we can continue exposing these secrets in the next video. 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 Lahi Moss. At just 26 years old, Lahi was already thin and healthy, but the pressure to be smaller still pushed her toward Ozempic. Instead of getting it through proper medical channels, she obtained the drug unofficially. That decision would prove catastrophic. Lahi was taking a dosage intended for people weighing over 220 pounds while she herself weighed only around 110 pounds. Her body was never meant to handle that level of medication. The results were immediate and terrifying. In just 2 weeks, Lahi's weight dropped from 132 pounds to 116 pounds. That rate of loss is medically dangerous, and the physical changes reflected it. Her face hollowed out rapidly, her cheekbones protruded sharply, her eyes sank deep into her face. She didn't look thin, she looked sick, skeletal, aged far beyond her years. Then her body gave out. Lahi was rushed to the hospital after suffering seizures later linked to severe dehydration, a known side effect of Ozempic that becomes lethal when combined with extreme rapid weight loss. This wasn't about aesthetics anymore. This was a full-blown health crisis. Unlike many celebrities, Lahi didn't try to spin the story. She spoke openly about it on her Dream On podcast, calling it the worst decision I've ever made. She described the experience as terrifying and urged others not to repeat her mistake. Her warning wasn't vague, it was explicit, urgent, and personal. What makes Lahi Moss's story the most disturbing is how little protection youth provided. She was young, she was thin, she should have been resilient, and yet her body still collapsed under the misuse of the drug. Her case exposes the darkest truth behind the Ozempic trend. When these medications are abused, they don't just change faces, they endanger lives.